All right, good morning. Welcome to Resin Market Moves, your fast, data-driven update on the resin markets that matter from last week. My name is Michael Workman with the ResinSmart team, and I'm joined today by one of our senior market experts and resident ResinSmart weatherman, Brian Balboa. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, man. Hope you had a fantastic Father's Day weekend.
Did and yourself?
Oh, fantastic. A lot
Right
of
on.
lot of rain up this way, but we had a good time. We had a good time
Good,
nonetheless. So
good to hear.
thank you, thank you. Well, there's certainly a lot going on with the world right now, Brian. I think that is probably the understatement of the week thus far. Of course, the news from last week with the Israel and Iran conflict. I know we've got our eyes on that. We did see what maybe Friday that the energy market, certainly was affected with oil spiking. I think it went up as high as 10%. And
10% up, closed up at almost 8%. So yeah, it was definitely a factor. You have a lot of the world basically paying attention. So this is really a wake up call. I mean, here we thought we were going to be in the summer doldrums, and boom, we're barely into the second week of June, and yeah, whole entire wake up call for not just global markets, but specifically residents here.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and first and foremost, we hope the conflict resolves itself, and we certainly don't want to see violence and people losing their lives, but just the impact on the industry, like you mentioned, right? I mean, I think I was reading something along the lines of 20% of the world's liquid-based energy products pass through the Strait of Hormuz. That's right there in that general area, which if decisions are made to affect that has the potential to impact. I mean, that's a fifth of the world's energy supplies
Right,
being put
right.
at some level of risk. What's your read, Brian? What do you think is going to play out here?
Uncertainty is never good when it comes to global energy markets. So right now, I mean, yes, there has been talk of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Yes, it is going to be a major issue if logistics going in and out of there are impacted. Right now, it's unlikely given the impact on other non-Iran OPEC members here. Yeah, it's still something to keep an eye on because you got to understand too, we don't just have geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. We still have,
It's a great
geopolitical
point.
tensions in Eastern Europe with, Russia and Ukraine right now. So, not to really keep in touch when it comes to what is going on with global energy markets and its impact on petrochemicals and polymers right now. But no, this was definitely a shot in the arm, so to speak. Really rejuvenated, at least for now, the impact on global resin markets. Now, will it be sustained? Now, that remains to be seen, just depending on how severe this conflict gets between Iran and Israel here right now. But yeah, we're definitely seeing a kind of a shift in sentiment right now, not just with geopolitical tensions, but what we saw last week too with our first look at ACC data for May when it comes to polyethylene polypropylene there. So you have two factors in resin markets which are really changing sentiment from what looked like just stable to maybe even slightly weaker pricing. Now we're seeing, a shift maybe to the upside right now.
I mean, thanks for that segue, Brian. I mean, just to kind of round us out here. I mean, I think we can all agree that the longer there's uncertainty, which will be very much tied to the length of time of that conflict, it will be not great, to say the least, for the energy market. But yeah, let's talk about that point you were getting to with, our first look at the inventory data here. With polyethylene, right, I mean, almost 530 million pounds in May
Yeah,
of a draw.
that's a big draw. So that's definitely giving producers a lot more confidence to push through a 5-cent increase in June. Now, yes, it is a big draw, but here's the thing, we're still up year on year when it comes to, domestic stockpiles. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about, being up 1 billion pounds of polyethylene year on year. Now, I mean, we're up, just over half a, billion pounds. We're up, 520 million pounds year on year. So that's still a lot of inventory out there. We still see a lot of warehouses, at least here in the Houston area too,
Yeah.
packed full of resin. But it does give producers a lot more, support in pushing through these increases. We're already seeing a shift to July too, where you have a couple producers looking at implementing increases of 5 to 7 cents per pound. Now, moving further out, we have to get into a deeper discussion on that, which we could talk about, of course, later on at the tail end of this conversation. But
Yeah, sure.
buyers still have leverage. Michael, buyers still have leverage. But again, we are just seeing more of a sentiment shift and a structural squeeze, so to speak, on the polyethylene market.
Yeah, yeah. Well said, Brian. Yeah, continue to push, but it does seem to be the tides are starting to shift a little bit in polyethylene. But what about polypropylene, Brian? I mean, I know the market's definitely very different.
Right. So we did see a draw in domestic stockpiles for May with polypropylene. Definitely not 500 million pounds, but still is a pretty substantial draw. We're looking at just under, I believe it was around 80 million pound draw. So yeah, May demand popped. It's the best we've seen since last August. But you also have stronger crude pricing, and you've got 2 outages on the books here for the polypropylene market. So yeah, June definitely tick up a penny, but there's really no need to chase resin in that market right now. There's still a lot of inventory out there. Just again, for really any market right now in resin, anything tied to resin, specifically with polypropylene, you still have to account for just PDH issues, which any
right.
little we have in PDH issues. I mean, that market is gonna react.
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep your eyes on PDH, one of our favorite acronyms here at ResinSmart, the RTi team. Brian, I want to hit the rest of the resins here. Just kind of maybe we can try rapid fire mode here. I know polystyrene producers are out with, I think, 4 cents. I think I saw a letter to that end. What do you think? Justified?
Not really. I mean, feedstocks are stronger. Yes, when you look at your aromatics market, but demand is still sluggish. I mean, most buyers should really resist increases unless there's, a styrene supply tightness ahead. But we still see on purpose run rates for that market in the low 50s. I mean, those are on purpose. That goes to show you how demand is in that market. Those are not production issues. Those are on purpose, run rates.
Yeah, not ideal to say the least in that market. What about ABS? I mean, that market's still very much dependent on automotive, right? Which continues to be slow. But what do you see there, Brian?
Yeah, it's still pretty flat in that market. You do have the Ineos Ohio plant shutdown coming up at the end of the month or sometime in July. But imports are still offsetting that. We're still getting a lot of inventory coming into the U.S. To North America. Pricing stability will most likely hold, especially for specific grades of ABS there.
Yeah, certainly. If there's FR, flame retardant, and ammonium trioxide involved, that's a separate story. But great point, Brian. And what about the polycarbonate market while we're covering engineered resins?
So polycarbonate, you do have a 15 cent per pound hike out there from Covestro. That really doesn't reflect the reality of this market. I mean, you have raw material costs actually lower for the second quarter here. So, definitely, we're telling our guys, just hold on contract pricing, hold firm on their contracts. There's really, no reasoning from a supply demand standpoint for a 15-cent hike to go through on the polycarbonate market.
Good enough. That's great. What are we missing? PVC, one of our favorite resins. Inventories seem to be climbing from the data we got in. Brian, what's there?
That doesn't necessarily mean construction season is coming back. The housing market is generally strong around this time anyways, during the summertime. We're still waiting on some numbers coming in from, just housing data from Census Bureau as well. But right now, I mean, you're still seeing short-term softness, but you still have freight rates in the Middle East. Energy tensions could ripple into the third quarter there. So, we're really just telling people to lock in their logistics now because, again, uncertainty with geopolitical tensions, tariff issues are still an issue, not just for PVC, but a lot of other resin markets as well, too.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, similar story with the nylons, I'm guessing. Again, another market that's very heavily tied to the weak automotive market right now.
Yeah, that market is still showing a lot of flatness. Celanese has some increases out there too. There's really no support for those increases unless you're a small volume buyer, though. That a whole nother story. When you're looking at what your monthly volume requirements are.
Yeah. We need a separate call just to talk about what to do in that if you fit that mold. We're just missing one resin. I can't believe we're missing PET. Right, bottle season should be in full throw. Right.
Yeah, look, it's a summer bottle season. I mean, it's a summertime. I mean, packaging is always one of those sectors that's, really strong throughout the year. Food packaging, bottles. Big news we got just this past week. Alpec, their upcoming plant closure in July, definitely going to make things a bit more tighter. You combine that with higher feedstock costs from the paraxylene PTA market. Things could get tight really fast coming into the third quarter there, especially during hurricane season. Once we get into those late summer months, August, September, until October there.
Yeah, great advice, Brian. So I think if I heard you right, I could sum it up. ResinSmart rundown. Challenge your increases from your vendors that are out there, especially in polyethylene, polystyrene, polycarbonate markets. Take this time, right? We're halfway through the year. Renegotiate now while the demand is at a relatively low marker. If your contracts allow, now's the time to get open up that deal, try to push for something a little better. And then Brian, as you mentioned, right, make sure you got your logistics ready to go. Who knows what we've got with hurricane season coming in quarter 3 here.
No, definitely. And if you're not sure if your prices are on target, that's why you should be talking to ResinSmart here. We could definitely benchmark them. We benchmark it really against 3 billion pounds of actual market data out there.
Yeah, I mean, benchmark it's at that time of the year, right? Especially as people start getting ready for P&L planning for 2026. And with that said, reach out today. Make sure to check out our new website, www.resinsmart.ai. Join our wait list for our tool, which is an easy way to track all this data that we've been talking about, or drop us a message here on LinkedIn. That's it for us. Thanks for watching this week's Resin Market Moves. We'll see you next week. Have a great one.
All right, guys.
Thanks.